of our cities. Our cities are rampantly becoming urban slums with lots of people living and sleeping in kiosks. We'll take you into one of the heartlands of the kiosification phenomenon and speak to people who are familiar with the situation on what can be done to salvage it. Later on, after 10 years of amendments, drafts, and postponements, Parliament says by 21st December, they would have passed the RTI bill. But they are only on clause 33 of the 91. How close are they to finishing? And will the RTI coalition give them space to do their work? We'll be back with more of this and more. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Don't forget it's live and interactive. Our hashtag is Point of View. We're on Facebook at CTTVGH. If you're watching a Facebook stream, send us a comment on what you watch. We also have a WhatsApp number we'll put on the screen for your comments. So, Ni Ama went to a very important slum. We don't really call it slum. It's more of an urban development. It's full of kiosks. He tried to find out what was driving the increase in the number of people living in kiosks at the Spintex Road. This is what he found.
Spintex, your typical urban town in Accra, is busier than ever. The area gets its name from the 4.93 kilometers road parallel to the Tema motorway that cuts through it. It is an interesting mix of commercial, industrial, and residential structures. On the Spintex Road, there is nothing you cannot find. Big malls, banks, offices, eateries, hotels, and not forgetting the frequent traffic congestion. But it is this same interesting mix at Spintex that divides it most. On one hand, its factories and commercial entities attract to it lower income earners as workers. On the other hand, its plush homes and residential facilities attract the upper class, both Ghanaians and non-Ghanaians. In this area alone, about 10 estates can be found. A home at the Regimano estate can go as high as $3,000 a month for rent, not to talk of purchasing it. But amidst the plush homes and busy factories off the Spintex Road, an unusual kind of community grows bigger and bigger. The kiosk estates have become a haven for over 3,000 people. Just around the KICC church, 3 of such communities can be noticed. Equator, the smallest of the 3, takes its name from this biscuit factory. Here, I meet Kofi Agbemola, who has lived in this slum for 12 years.
If you don't have what you want and what you get, you must, move with it. I don't think anybody will be happy by living in the kiosk. When you are in, as soon as you speak in with your wife, anybody passing by at the back can hear what you are saying. But if you are in the building and building fence again, there's a fence wall, you can do whatever even sometimes you'll be shouting in, but it will be difficult for somebody passing by to hear. But when you are in the kiosk is at the roadside, there's nothing you can do. So you are in the kiosk, you know how to do your things. They say that when you are living in the glass house, you don't throw stone.
Finding an affordable room in Spintex to rent is almost impossible as a factory hand like Kofi. Considering his meager salaries and the average rent of room in Spintex, he is compelled to go in for the cheaper option, a kiosk.
You are staying somewhere, let me see, Kumasi, let me see, where? Dowenya, Afienya, Sogakope, then, and your work is somewhere closer here. Behind Equator, cocoa processing and Royal Crown, around Coca-Cola. And the building now in this area, you can't afford it. The rent, when they give you the price, you cannot. Look at your salary and check if you can pay a rent, 1 month rent. If you don't take them, even the rent is more than your salary. you cannot eat. So it's better you look for a kiosk which price is down. There's a gutter around. If you get up, you can go around and see. There's a gutter. When you raise, the water pass through the gutter. For the toilet, you have a public toilet around here. You go to toilet.
But Kofi Agbamola has managed to get for himself a complete home, which seems to lack nothing.
These are our baggages. You can see my bag. You have only one bed.
Can I pay the district?
Because there is a light, you have only one fan, so that you can sleep, because of the heat. Yeah. You are in the kiosk, the sun is directed to the...
It costs between 1,500 and 2,000 cedis to put up a structure here. I understand in just a day, the project can be completed. The people who live here do not live here by choice. They complain that during the day, the hot weather makes living in their rooms unbearable. But with many of them earning just an average of 300 cedis per month, they have no choice but to continue living in these kiosks. It's a hard life here at the kiosk estates. This enclave alone houses over 400 kiosks. Dealer, a factory hand, lives in one of them.
No, not actually up to my happiness, but due to the condition. Sometimes the place you are coming to work at this side, before you get to work, is late, traffic and things, transport, it costs a lot. So, you just have to put some things together, some place together, managing the kiosks, just to maintain your work and all this. That cost has to be here. The pay is not the best. The companies are not doing well for us here at all. Their mind is, if it's not good for you, go. Someone will come, more go, more come. Yeah, the pay is not helping. Imagine you are working for 30 days, a whole month, company is paying you 300 cedis, high 400 cedis and things. You yourself imagine, what can they do for you? You can sustain yourself with that money. If only government can do something about that, I think it can help us. But it happens that we've been this side, government is not looking up to us at all. Maybe when time reaches for election, MPs, ministers comes around, vote for me, this and that, made a lot of promises. After the election, they know you no more. Someone who come in doing the election to give you his number, anything, call me. After the election, if you call the number, you no more picks up your call or sometimes switch off. You can't get the person until the next election again. They are not doing anything for us here at all. So some of us, we plan that election time, none of them should come to our end here, because we're not going to give them our vote again anymore.
These kiosks are situated on privately owned and undeveloped lands. Caretakers charge new arrivals 300 cedis to site a kiosk here. Residents will also pay a monthly rent of between 20 cedis to 40 cedis to private owners of the land or their caretakers. Living in the kiosk estate is plagued with uncertainty. Residents would not know when they would be evacuated by the landowners to make way for a building project. These newcomers have just suffered a similar fate. Today, I am visiting another kiosk village in Spintex. It is only a 7-minute drive from the KICC line, but here there seems not to be much space for new occupants. Kiosk owners at the Saud Backyard Kiosk Village do not have to pay rent for the land. The government owns the land here, which houses at least 150 kiosks with over 450 inhabitants. 44-year-old Ananeseyam Abraham has been in the area for 15 years. He has all he needs in his small kiosk, even a bathroom.
It's not part of my plan to stay in kiosk, but it's because of some situation. I decided to manage myself in some ways, because Accra here accommodation is a big problem, and that is why I decided to join myself in a kiosk living. Nowadays, before you get a single room around the Spintex around here, you spend at least 200 to 250 a month. If the owner demand 2 years advance, it's quite a bit a problem. For the trans fats, it's a cool place for living, because sometimes we do create some bad image of ourselves. Our environment become well to live. But sometimes we inhabitants, if we take care of the place and we love each other, no kind of some type of behaviors are not dealing within us. You can say the place is cool to live.
However, he wishes that government's affordable housing project would be completed soon.
Affordable houses to be outlined for the squatters too. As you can see, only problem we have here is the bridge because of the small stream around us. We are passing about the pipe stretch or the pipeline. Only if government can help create a bridge for us, if our children from school, they can cross easily this gutter is flowing.
Shanties like this are going by the minute in Accra, and it's estimated that there's a 1.7 million housing deficit in Ghana. We hear of several affordable housing projects that are uncompleted, yet people are living in kiosks like this. This is why it is needed that these projects are completed so as to find a better life for the people who live here. Reporting for City News from the Saud backyard here in Spintex in Accra, my name is Ni Ama.
So that was Ni Ama with a special report from the Spintex Road area. And we have in studio a man whose organization deals with urban settlements. It's called the People's Dialogue for Urban Settlements. And the program manager is in the person of Salifu Abdul Mujib. He's joining me to delve into the issues of kiosification of our urban spaces. Mujib, good to have you. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
So this was just the Spintex area, and there were 2 places he went to. How many more places in our cities are like this?
Bernard, it's something that we have practically followed for the past 10 years. If you look at the Jolo side, there was a recent eviction of squatters on the waterworks land. Mm-hmm. Now, on the motorway stretch, mm-hmm. there were some other slums there. Now, we have been working over the years not to rationalize the creation of slums, but to highlight the challenge of housing deficit. As a result of our exercise, we discovered over 265 informal settlements in AMA alone.
Wow.
AMA at that time until now has been a bit divided and realigned. But we did that data on all cities in Ghana. So we had the AMA, the Ghana Central, Ghana East, Ghana West, Adenta, Ashaiman, Ghana South, and AMA itself as a whole.
So this is Gamma?
Gamma, yes. And our aim in that exercise was to highlight the challenges of urbanization. And so if you comb the city, you realize that almost around the urban areas, housing is a challenge. And the easiest way people can accommodate themselves whilst living in the city and trading to survive with their families is to create these makeshift structures.
And you're saying there are 265 informal settlements.
Yes.
You mentioned Jolu, you mentioned motorway, of course the Spintex Road. There was also parts of Adenta as well. What is driving this?
In our interactions and research, we realize that business, the city is an attraction. It's like a magnet that attracts people to live and then search for employment opportunities. So you cannot take that away from urbanization. once there is high unemployment rate in most rural areas, people, both now graduates and non-graduates, now want to seek opportunities in urban settlements. Accra is becoming closer to almost all its adjoining cities. Now, people will want to move towards Accra because that is where they see employment opportunities. So businesses are also established in the city. So everybody wants to get into the city to look for job. And if you attempt to do any business on the streets of Accra, at least for your daily bread, you will be able to make something. Count it. When somebody sells pen, handkerchiefs, chewing gum, anything that you attempt to market in the city, you will be able to raise a little income that can feed you at least for Banku and Kenke, whilst you are able to rest.
So are these kiosk dwellers original indigenes of Accra, or they have come from outside Accra because of economic conditions?
Some are indigenes, but majority are coming from the city of Accra.
Coming from outside?
Outside Accra.
Where are they coming from?
Now, if you look at the streets of Accra, take, for example, the Kayaye phenomenon. Now, as they move in barges, as we have been seeing them, where do you think they will live? There is accommodation challenge. So definitely they will be looking for makeshift structures, spaces in the city. Then they can create their homes. Now, if you look at graduate unemployment, you realize that every graduate now, after national service, wants to remain or moves towards the city of Accra. Now, all these people coming in without job, but they will sleep. So where will they sleep? Where will they sleep? They will have to look for immediate accommodation around the city. And once that they can lay their hands on the wooden structures that you find around. Many people have constructed these structures, some for business, to retail one or two things at least to make income to survive. And they live within these kiosks just because they don't have enough to rent, because there's high cost of rent in the city of Accra and other urban.
So how come we don't have affordable housing for these people? Some of the guys who spoke to on the Spintex Road say they work within the Spintex industrial area, and they do jobs that pays them below 400 cedis a month. Some are factory hands, some are security people. Why isn't that so is it that the money they have isn't enough to get proper accommodation? What are the dynamics at play here?
Now, we all know even formal workers with some level of education have found it quite challenging to pay for a decent accommodation. Now, the cost of a chamber and hall in Accra now springs from 300 a month to 500, depending on the area of location. Now, if somebody is earning above 1,000, calculate the daily cost of living, add electricity, add water, add toilet issues, add educational bills. How much will that person be able to save in order to pay for rent? Now, most workers in Accra live on debts. They have been borrowing to renew their rents year in, year out. And the question of how much will they be having enough to buy land in order to build cannot be answered, because the cost of land itself is skyrocketing. So those who live on the Spintex area are just a sample of the higher population that live below an income level of 500 a month. Now, if that is what they earn, calculate how much they feed on in a day times the number of days that that money will last. You haven't added other things like hospital bills. Now, almost...
So you're saying it's impossible to get a proper house at the going rate. So the kiosk is the logical solution.
Seriously, it is something that we will all have to look at. Because if you look at the informal sector housing issues, you realize that it is housing a large population of people in the urban city. Now, if the kind of housing infrastructure that we find, how many of those people can actually pay for such accommodation? It's highly impossible. Because if you are demanding an advance of close to 3,000 plus, basically for a year, now single rooms are becoming even a challenge. So just one room that somebody will live in with a family, the cost of from 50 Ghana up, now that is even far away from within the city.
Wow.
Now with that, calculate transportation for that person to move from somewhere like beyond Oyarifa,
okay,
where if he can get that kind of accommodation, how much will it cost on daily basis to troop to the city of Accra to fend, to do business and make something and then return again? So it has a broader challenge against people's living conditions, because transportation itself is quite expensive in the urban sector.
We'll take a short break. This is the point of view. We're trying to understand the dynamics of vulnerable settlements throughout our cities, and we're trying to find out from Salifu Abdul Mujib, who works with the People's Dialogue on Urban Settlements, the seriousness of the problem, which we call kiosification. When we come back, we'll try and understand what governments have tried to do and why they've not been successful. Later on, the RTI bill, they say by 21st December, the bill should have gone through the various stages in Parliament. The RTI coalition is working hard. They say on Saturday, they have a demonstration. We'll speak to a member of Parliament and a member of the RTI coalition as well. This is the point of view. Stay with us.
Every day comes with its challenges. But there's someone you can trust and rely on to bring you hope for the future and joy for today. At the end of each day, you are stronger because you know that tomorrow will be better and brighter. That's the Ghanaian way. MoneyGram, bringing you closer.
Spice up your mornings with culturally enriched conversations, social interviews, and policy-oriented discussions that will keep you updated on the progress of the nation.
But I think that the general demeanor and posturing of our police force, even when it comes to these things, needs to be spoken about.
Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10. Let your voice be heard with the hashtag Breakfast Daily. Join us for breakfast daily, only on City TV.
Welcome back. This is the point of view. Tonight we're trying to understand this urban dynamic of kiosks springing up and becoming settlements for many people. And in the first part, we showed you a short clip from the Spintex area where lots of people are having to make do with kiosks. And in studio is Salifu Abdul Mujib, who is the program manager for the People's Dialogue on Human Settlements. Here are a few of your comments on the issue. Hello, good evening, Bernard. After airing this worrying episode, I wait to see if any action will be taken. We need true affordable housing in Ghana. Collins from Taifa. Bernard, our big men have failed us when it comes to housing matters, but I blame those guys at the slum. They are the same people we see at the political rallies. Okay. Sicho from Puerto says, the housing problem is a very bad one. Headquarters hoping and praying that the shop owners close early so they can lay their heads. That's how bad it is. Charity Sicho from Puerto. Bernard, so when government and its officials say they have or are building affordable houses, who are their target markets? So that's the next question. We've had affordable housing programs that this government has been talking about for years. How come we have these programs and yet over 5 million people live in kiosks based on some estimations?
Affordable housing is not affordable enough. Now, if you consider the cost input of such developments, and then the location of such projects, who will you want to live there?
So now, it's cost and location.
Yes.
So it's too expensive?
It's too expensive.
And it's not located at the right places? No. Where should it be located?
Now, we in our approach to improving urban settlements, bearing in mind sustainable cities under the SDG 11, we have been looking at how development agenda in terms of participatory decision making. Now, if you want to improve or increase the housing stock, which is affordable and accessible to low-income dwellers, then you will need to look within the places where they are attracted to. Now, if you go and do a greenfield development, who do you expect to move out? Is it the rich or the poor? Because they cannot even move from where the buildings will be sited to the point of business. And these are people who are in the informal economy.
So the affordable housing must be within the places where economic activity takes place.
It's going on. Because if you look at the city, that is where people are attracted to. Now, if the people who own the stores in the business center of Accra, they need loading boys, the truck pushers, and those kind of people, definitely those people must be looking for places to sleep around them.
What if you have a functioning public transport system? So that if you had, say, a housing project in Kasua or Ajen Kotoku, and then you had trains or buses, would that make it easier?
That would have also it will bring about another competition. You know, any time that you think of coming out with this kind of plan, you should be looking at absorbing the pressure from the city. Now, if we could look at creating a catchment area, a market, draw the population or the attraction of Accra as a business enclave, that makes everybody wanting to be in Accra, draw the opportunities out of Accra. So, for example, if you look at Kasua, why wouldn't we be thinking of creating a secondary city away from Accra? Now, if you do that, almost all the people who want to move from the western part through to central and coming into Accra to look for jobs, even to sell, they will stop somewhere there. Then you can create another transport level that moves goods from that point to Accra. Now, there should be that conscious effort to create a market that absorbs the movement. Otherwise, everybody will want to be in Accra because that's where.
So before we wrap up, recently the Minister for Roads said that they were going to expand the motorway and that people who were living on the shoulders of the motorway should move. That would include a lot of people who live in kiosks. There have been talk about decongesting parts of the cities which have been occupied by people who live in these vulnerable housing. What's the best way to do this?
Some partners in our work sometimes think we are condoning the illegal establishment of slums. Now, over the years, we have been propagating an agenda that will lead into what we call an in situ upgrading of settlements. There is land in space. Now, if you look at the housing development of most areas of Accra, it's lateral. We are just building one room and roof, that straightforward kind of building. Whereas land outside Accra is even increasing in price, we are not thinking of creating a situation which can absorb the people, but rather thinking of deleting those establishments. If you delete slums today, they create another. Now, slum dwellers don't see spaces in the city. Now that you have shown this video, you can see clearly how people are moving kiosks around.
Yeah.
Most of them, they locate it, they pay for the tax on it.
They pay rent.
They pay rent. And it's assumed it's a business structure. But that is where they sleep. Now, if you remove those on Spintex, in fact, about 2015, we made an attempt on the Spintex, the motorway development. And we were complaining that who is the owner of that area? We realized that there's a problem between Ladma, Medina, and then TMA as to the ownership in terms of boundaries there. But we were just crying out that do not allow them to begin to locate these makeshift structures, because that is how it begins. Don't allow it to start. From day one, if you see one, you don't. But if you wait until a good number of them have fixed structures and then you attempt to remove them, it seems you are against human settlements and survival. So you realize that you will be drawing the attention of the international community that you are evicting people by force, which we have been advocating that don't wait to do that so that you are seen as a bad government. Prevent the growing of slums. And then we think within the urban settlements, where is the land? Which lands can government partner to upgrade so that you can even have businesses down and then you raise housing, single units, single rooms, infrastructure housing, 2-3 steps. We accommodate a lot of such people.
Okay.
But there's nothing showing that we have that kind of...
It's a conversation we intend to continue on the City FM program and our City TV channels. Yeah, more comments as we wrap this segment up. Good evening, Bernard. The kiosification is a huge issue in Medina. UN, that's the name of the place. The government should consider the Rwanda model of building affordable housing. This is Mashoud in Medina. Bernard, the issue of kiosks is serious, specifically when there is a fire outbreak because of its wooden structure and electrical connections. It's so dangerous. Same thing happened at Abeka Junction behind Peace FM, and people lost things they took 10 years to gain. Ghana needs leaders, not people who want to make a name. You don't add your name. Good evening, Bernard. Another reason why there seems to be classification in the cities, especially Accra, is 1, unfavorable rent, 2, low income levels, 3, the decision by settlers not to stay for too long in the cities, hence the need not to spend a lot on rent, and 4, people's desire to stay closer to other relatives in such situations is generally seen as a way of living with same people from the same area. So we know there are ethnic clusters of these people as well. Well, we'll break here and come back and go into something also very important. We'll continue this conversation later on. But thank you, Mujib, for being on the program and for the good work you guys do at the People's Dialogue on Human Settlements. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Fantastic. When we come back, so we are told that before this parliament rises, the bill would become law. We are told the deadline they've given themselves is 21st December. But the RTI coalition is not really convinced. In fact, after the Red Friday a couple of days ago, they're hitting the streets on Saturday. We'll find out from one of the key pillars within the coalition why they are not sure that these promises being given by Parliament to be met. And we'll speak to a parliamentarian on a very important committee on this. Where is the RTI law? Don't go away.
news, analysis, projections, and policies that affect your business. Curated and delivered in a simple and timely format. Watch Business Dashboard, your most comprehensive source of business news, every weekday at 7 p.m. Only on City TV. City TV is live. City TV is a free-to-air digital channel. On a digital TV, please press menu on your remote control and run a news search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a multi-TV digibox. Tune into City TV and experience your world. City TV, it's your world.
Welcome back. This is The Point of View. We're still trying to delve into issues arising, and the kiosk conversation will continue for a long time. We'll be at the forefront of it. But it's an issue that has been with us for at least a decade, the right to information law, which has stalled for many, many years. We have in studio Samonate George, is Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram, and he's on the Communications Committee. We also have Dr. Kojo Asante, who is with CDD, but also with the RTI Coalition, a civil society grouping which is having no more excuses. They did a Red Friday a couple of days ago, and they say on Saturday they are hitting the streets. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening to your viewers.
Kojo, how long have we been waiting for the RTI law in Ghana?
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think how long have I been waiting. Well, if you take it, you should say it from 1993, because the Constitution granted us the right to information law. That human right when the Constitution came into being.
So that's 25 years?
Yeah. So we are celebrating 25 years of non-delivery.
You were in what class? 1993. I'm sure you were in like GSS 1 or something.
I wasn't even GSS.
Wow.
Yeah, possibly.
But when did the RTI law become an issue? GSS 1, yes. When did RTI become an issue? Because of course...
I think even from 96, when the IEA first did a draft.
96?
96, when it first did a draft. But it took up to 2002 for a government draft from the Attorney General to be available. And then it actually got into Parliament in 2010 for the first time. So it sort of hangs...
So at least 8 years in Parliament?
Yeah.
But in draft stage, 16 years?
It starts, goes through some consideration stage. There's a turnover, or the Parliament comes to an end. Then it starts all over again.
But as an idea, 22 years?
Oh, yes, certainly.
But what is it? What is the RTI? Because a lot of people are just hearing, what is RTI?
Well, I mean, basically, if you cannot have a democracy without this human right.
Okay.
Because it's a whole point of accountability. You entrust both elected and appointed leaders with a particular mandate. The only way in which you can know what they are doing is to have access to the information that they collect or generate on your behalf.
Okay.
Now, the Constitution recognizes that right, that accountability principle. But in order for you to give effect to it, you need to be able to pass legislation that will show the limitations that comes with the Constitution, because we have public interest limitations that have to be recognized: national security, public health. So we are just waiting for Parliament to create those limitations and create a structure for how information will be accessed in the public sphere, and also even sometimes in the private sphere. And this is the reason why we've been waiting for 25 years.
So, Mr. George, Samuel George, this seems very simple. Why haven't you guys done this?
Well, let me say a very good evening to our listeners and to yourself and to Kojo Asante. The RTI, as I know it, under the NDC administration, did make its first entry under Professor Mills into Parliament. Then it transcended into the Mahama administration, and we came very close to having an RTI bill in December of 2016.
Okay.
In fact, it had gone through all the various stages: first consideration, second consideration, the third consideration stage. It was actually up for a vote. Basically, that would say, yes, it's become law, and all of that. And then there was a boycott, a walkout led by then minority leader Osei Mensah-Bonsu.
Wow.
That led to the truncation of the process. Pending at that time, Mr. Akufo-Addo had won the election but had not been sworn in yet. So that was pending the transition, during the transition
after
process.
December 7th.
After December 7th. Parliament was still in session. And so the then minority decided they wanted to wait to become majority first.
Wow.
Then we had the new government come in, and then they took the bill that had appeared before Parliament in 2010 and had transcended to 2018, and then decided to do a review, which is what you've now seen as a 2018 bill that has come in. It's not the same as the 2010 bill. There have been some changes here and there. Now, I can speak of this for this Parliament because this is the Parliament I am a part of. In 2018, when the bill came, it was referred to the Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee and a joint committee of Legal and Constitutional Affairs and Communications. I've always joked that I spent my Easter holidays in Koforidua reviewing this. That was when, because it just came before the Easter break, and we decided to, as a matter of urgency, go and do a detailed review of it. I mean, from the review, there were several amendments that we proposed over there with the Attorney General's at the meeting in Koforidua. We came back and we started the processes. Currently, we're in the second consideration stage. In the second consideration stage, there are about 150 amendments that have been filed.
Wow.
Now, the processes are laborious. You need to take them one after the other. Each amendment is proposed by the chairman.
These amendments?
Several members of Parliament. I know my very good friend and senior brother, Honorable Opare Ansah, for example, has about 50 of these amendments standing in his name.
Opare
Ansah of the NPP.
50 amendments?
Yes, about 50 of these amendments are in his name. The amendments in the name of the minority leader, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, Osei Mensah-Bonsu has also.
So do you vote on these amendments?
So what happens is the amendment is read out, and then there are arguments for and against.
Okay.
And then basically the speaker will put it to a vote. One of the amendments, for example, was proposed by Honorable K.T. Hammond for the deletion of Section 17 of the bill. That amendment took us 2 days of deliberations because we had a full day of deliberations on it. When we were about to put it to a vote, there was an issue of quorum, and so the House was suspended. And then we came back the next day and continued the debate again until this time we decided we're going to shoot down his amendment. He can come back again during the third consideration stage. Don't forget, during the third consideration stage, there will still be opportunities for further amendments. That is why, for me, I hold the view that, look, this is government's business. This bill is government's business. It's being sponsored by the government. It's come to Parliament by the government. For the first, thankfully, under this administration, you have a member of government who doubles as a leader of Parliament. The majority leader is not just majority leader, but leader of government business in the House. And then he is the chair of the business committee of Parliament,
so the whole thing is in his bosom,
which determines what Parliament must consider on a particular day. You understand me? He again triples, this time not doubles, triples as the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs in government.
Is the minority in favor of this bill getting passed?
You need to, I'm sure Mr. Santi would, if he sat through the sittings, some of the sittings in Parliament, and I say this without seeking to be mischievous, most times you see there are more members of the minority in the chamber than the majority.
Why is the coalition agitated? You did Red Friday, you've been doing leaflets, Saturday you are having march. You don't seem to trust the process.
Well, I mean, we've observed this process. We work with the committee when under Honorable Bagbin.
Yeah.
I was actually, the last days before he went back to Parliament, I was part of the committee that reviewed it the last time. And we went that close, and it still didn't get passed. And we've been doing this. I've been involved in this process for, a decade or more. So I know that there is resistance. Honorable K.T. Hammond has not hid his opposition to this and used quorum to frustrate the process. This discussion, and Honorable Sam George mentioned that they were in Koforidia, I think in May.
Yeah.
The report was done early May. Before Parliament rose, they could have moved this process very quickly and at least gotten a fair bit in front. But, the process has been slow, and then some, debates, drag. We have seen other processes move very quick. And as he's saying, if the business committee wants this process to move, if the whip wants people to attend, and so on, if the executive wants it passed, people will show up and debate and get this moving.
So you don't get the feeling that the executive is invested in getting this done?
No, because, this whole idea that, now it's in Parliament's bosom, they are independent, they will do their own thing. We've seen legislation, even the special prosecutor, which we're also very involved with. It moved very quickly, and even as of now, Parliament had extended sitting on Saturday
to make sure that
the regulations are passed. So if Parliament wants this done, they will make the time. And we have seen this very slow process. Yes, there are almost 100 and so amendments, but what does Parliament normally do? They do winnowing to make sure that, overlapping questions and duplications are all ironed out so that the substantive differences then will come for debate. I know the winnowing started even when the committee came back. They spend a lot of days trying to do it. So, as for the committee, I think they've done.
We've done our best.
So let me just find out, based on timelines, I understand Parliament rises on 21st December.
Yeah.
21st, 22nd.
And today is 3rd.
Yes.
So you have 5 working days in 3 weeks. So you have 15 working days. And I'm told they have...
Normally it will be maybe 4.
Yeah.
At this time, we're doing 6 working days. We're sitting Monday to Saturday now.
I'm told 33 clauses have been successfully worked on, including the clause 17. I'm told 91 clauses are to be amended.
But I think they went on Saturday, they asked the committee to go back to winnowing.
Meaning they will
to
be
try
more
to reduce
the
number of amendments.
So the question is, will they be, based on the pace at which they are moving, will they be done by 21st December?
It can be done. If Parliament wants it done, it can be done.
Done well.
Of course, if they want to do it well, it can be done. And we've insisted that, it's not that we are agitated and therefore Parliament can say, oh yes, we agree this, we leave this out. They will still, people have put questions that have to be addressed. But it is all about procedure, and it's about how you control the debates and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of questions that sometimes they invite the member, to see whether or not 2 people who have raised an issue is probably the same issue, so it will stand in one person's name. All of that can be done by the business committee, the leadership of Parliament, if they want.
So if you say it can be done, 21st December is 3 weeks away. They've done 31 out of the 90-something. Why are you still holding your march on Saturday?
So the march on Saturday, because this week is anti-corruption week.
Okay.
Right? So the march that we are having on Saturday is a stand-up against corruption march.
Stand up against corruption?
Yes, because, for us, we think corruption is normalizing. And citizens really have to take a stand and engage. You see, we don't think that government might do its bit, but if we don't really get and insist that, we need to tackle this very seriously and radically, I think that when we get to a point where everything is for sale, we are in trouble. But we have observed this process for a long time, and we think that people are becoming numb.
So when you say we, who are you referring to?
This is, those of us, all the anti-corruption CSOs that are working in anti-corruption. There are a lot of the media that are involved in this process as well. But you see, these are linked. These are the RTI issue is linked. Even the president, when he made that commitment, when at the Independence Square, that's what he said. He said, what is the missing link in the governance and the anti-corruption fight? When he was talking about the OSP, he said it's the right to information law. So they are linked. We need to create the transparency. That is the only way in which you are going to really work on prevention, if you're talking about anti-corruption.
So there's a relation between the RTI bill and fighting corruption?
Oh, I mean, that is not even
But are Ghanaians interested in this information? I
had an exchange with Honorable, the first Deputy Speaker, Joe White, on this matter. So he raised the matter that, he went to his constituency and he doesn't think people are interested. And I asked him, so what are people interested in? He says toilets and water and so on and so forth. I'm saying, what did they ask about toilets and water? When is it going to come? I'm saying that's RTI. You know, it's not going to tell people in a palm or whatever that pass the RTI. It's about accessing information. Because all the people who are demanding development in his constituency, people are coming line up and saying, we want this, we want that. The project, who is doing the project? How long would it take? People raising issues about value for money. Where do you get all of that information? Even Parliament itself, when they are debating the budget, if they had access to information from Ministry of Finance, from the Ministry of Special Development Initiatives, all of that would deepen the kind of accountability, oversight they are supposed to have. And this law, and most times we look at the rights it gives to citizens, but one of the things that it is critical in this law is that it imposes obligation on the ministries, MMDAs and MDAs, to actually develop classifications of information that they hold. So now you're going to get people organizing information so that we can access it. And that is good for Honorable Sam George when he's doing his job, when his constituencies ask him, when is this coming? When is the road? He can ask for that information.
Let me give you a few comments from the public. One thing we need to understand is that...
The 2 quick points I'd like to make.
Okay, it says Article 21(1)(f) has already granted rights information. When one is denied information, the person may go under Article 33 to seek redress. It is up to the denier to show that there indeed exists a law so described under Article 21 under which the right was denied. RTI law does not give a right that the Constitution has not already given. Wilberforce from GBA. Bernard, our leaders only play politics with serious issues that matter. We need accountability. That's all we are calling for. This is nature in whole. Somebody just says RTI bill must be passed. So we are going to make a quick point.
Yes, 2 points. Bernard, as a citizen of this republic, forget the fact that I sit in Parliament. I'm a citizen first and foremost. I tell you, with all seriousness, the RTI bill will not pass this year. Take it from me, as someone who sits in Parliament. The next week is going to be spent considering the estimates. Or this week, from this week, we're going to begin to consider the estimates and come back and debate the estimates to pass the appropriations bill. Take it from me. From what I saw last year, that's the main focus of this Parliament, to ensure that. That's why we're sitting on Mondays. That's why today we sat, and that's why we're sitting on Saturdays. It takes a certain hunger from the executive, not even Parliament. The President, in his 2017 State of the Nation's address in Parliament, said that the Right Information Bill was a key thing he looked to pass in 2017. If the President wants to give action to his words, he will instruct his Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, who is the leader of government business in Parliament and majority leader, chair of the Business Committee, to ensure that the time we use for statements, we spend close to an hour on statements and the contributions here and there. The time that we use for other ancillary businesses in Parliament could be that the RTI could become. If you take the order paper and take, I mean, he comes to Parliament. If you take the order paper, the RTI is always the last item in there. After we finish,
so you are saying that
almost all of our business.
The week coming, we won't do RTI.
We are going to. The committees are going into. We're now going to start meeting. Take for example the Communication Committee on which I sit on is now going to sit with the Ministry of Communication and all of her agencies to review her budget. We are going to then sit with Ministry of Information and review her budget. Prepare our reports for the appropriations bill. Come back to the floor of the House and debate this and defend it.
So the thing won't pass.
I'm not
so
saying,
what will happen?
saying,
so if by 21st December it doesn't go through, what happens?
we're going into next year, so then it comes back into next year.
You don't have to start from the beginning.
No, we don't.
So how does that make you feel?
So long as this parliament doesn't end.
He says they won't finish.
But then there's a second point I wanted to make, and that comes to the point that the guy from the GBA sent.
Yeah.
I've always said that we need to be careful. I've said this several times. That the RTI bill in itself is not a guarantee to information, because whatever the RTI will give you now is already guaranteed in the Constitution.
So you agree with the text?
No.
Yes, because I'll give you the Kelly GBG case as a classic example. When Imani Ghana wanted information and they couldn't get it, all they did was to go to court.
Quick one. Your quick response to that.
Yeah, my quick response to that is that everybody is going to go to the High Court. If your people in Adan want information,
my people are in
Nigo. They are going to go to the High Court to demand it. If they can't get it,
if the ministry is unwilling to provide it.
No, but they said they won't finish December 21. Does that worry you?
It worries me, and that's why we'll continue to agitate.
My plea to the coalition is to, in fighting for an RTI bill, you spoke about classification of information. Yes. You need to be asking government to amend the PRAD Act.
All right.
Because the PRAD Act is what will give you through access to information.
Is to say we have to end here. Thank you. This has been great, short but sweet. Thank you, Samuel George, and people Ningo Pram Pram. I couldn't even ask you about Mahama and whether you contributed.
Number 41, I did.
How much did you pay?
1,000 Ghana cedis, and hopefully I will contribute more.
Okay,
on the list of 500.
Your tin number to check whether you are in good standing.
Which tin?
Could you ask something? From the RTI coalition. Earlier on, we spoke to Salif Abdul-Majid of the People's Dialogue on Human Settlements on Kiosification. My name is Bernard Avle. Thank you for staying with us on this rapid fire edition of The Point of View. Stay with City TV. Good night.
The Point of View is sponsored by MoneyGram, bringing you closer.